Hello, besties. Welcome to Emma's Tales. Please subscribe and leave a like for us. It means the world to us. Also, share this video with your loved ones and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you. As you do so, sit back and relax as we dive into this story. The scream of brakes cut across the afternoon like a ripped bedsheet. People turned their heads, then their whole bodies, and the Danfo driver was already swearing when the old woman went down. She didn't fall like a sack. She folded, one knee buckling, palm splayed, shoulder kissing the asphalt. A shopping bag split and small oranges rolled into the gutter. Amara didn't think. She dropped the nylon of fabric scraps she was carrying to the tailor's stall and ran, her slippers slapping gravel. "Stop!" she shouted at the oncoming cars, one hand up, the other fumbling for the woman's elbow. A kiki stuttered to a halt. A horn complained, and kept complaining. Amara planted herself between the traffic and the body on the road. "Madam, can you hear me?" She crouched. The old woman's eyes fluttered, cloudy but awake. A shallow cut above her eyebrow wept down into her lashes. Her left knee was already swelling, skin rubbed raw. The woman was breathing fast, frightened, trying to sit up. No, wait," Amara said. "Don't move yet." She scanned for blood that wouldn't stop, for bones that looked wrong. Drivers were watching now, a ring of faces rising over the circle like sour fruit. Someone thrust a phone at the scene, already filming. Someone else said, "Abijah, she's old, leave her," and Amara didn't look up. "You," she pointed at a boy in a school uniform. "Bring that bag." "You," to a woman with a baby on her back. "Please tear small cloth." Her voice was steady in a way that surprised her. She tugged the scarf from her own neck. It was soft from years of washing, the color now more memory than dye, pinned at one corner with a tiny enamel crest she never took off. She slid the pin free with her teeth, dropped it into her skirt pocket without thinking, and folded the scarf into a band. "Madam, I'm going to press here," she said, voice low. The old woman winced but nodded. Good. Your name? Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button." The old woman swallowed. "Funk," she said, and then the name dissolved into a hiss as pain bit her knee again. "We need to get you to a clinic." Amara looked up to the Kiki driver. "Please help us carry her." He hesitated, eyes cutting to the traffic he'd blocked, calculating time against mercy. "I will pay," Amara said, and that decided it. With the driver and a hawker, they lifted the woman carefully, under shoulders, under calves. The knee didn't look broken. No chest pain. No slurred words. Still, the tremble in the woman's hands made Amara's own body go cold. She climbed into the kiki and took the woman's weight into her lap as if it were a child's. "It's okay, we're going now," she whispered into hair that smelled of menthol and palm oil. The clinic was 3 streets away, a low building with a flaking blue sign, and a waiting room that always smelled faintly of bleach and heat. The receptionist's headscarf was pristine, her expression practiced. "Card?" she asked. "She fell at the junction," Amara said. "Please." "Card first," the woman repeated, not unkindly. The rate board above her head was white with little black numbers. Amara slid her hand into her bag and felt the thinness of the cloth purse. Her transport money home. The extra for provisions. The little she'd been saving, 500 here, 1,000 there. She pulled everything out and counted it once, quickly. "This will cover the card and deposit," she said. Her voice didn't shake. "Please." "Nurse." The receptionist took the notes. "Name? For her? I don't know," she said. "Funk." Amara glanced down and squeezed the woman's hand. "Madam, your surname?" The old woman's eyes had cleared a little. "Adeyemi," she whispered. The name sat like a smooth stone in her mouth. "Adeyemi, Funk," Amara repeated. She spelled what she guessed. "Write my own too, Amara, for contact. But I'm leaving after the nurse comes. Please." The nurse came, efficient, focused, and they wheeled the old woman behind a curtain. "You can sit," the nurse said, but Amara remained on her feet. She answered questions like she was there by appointment. Where did this happen? Did she lose consciousness? Any known medical conditions? She didn't know, but she knew what she'd seen. The nurse nodded and, with a lightness that Amara respected, asked her to wait outside. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. In the waiting room, the fan ticked tiredly as it spun. A baby cried then slept. A man in a grease-stained overall looked at his shoes. Amara's pulse slowed for the first time since the break screamed. She looked at her hands and saw a smear of blood at the base of her thumb. She wiped it on her skirt and felt the empty space at her neck where the scarf belonged. Her fingers flew to her pocket where she dropped the pin. It wasn't there. She pressed deeper, searching corners, then turned out the lining. Nothing. A small, stupid panic rose in her throat. She closed her eyes, pictured her hands. She'd pulled the pin. She was sure she had. Had she? In the rush, had she left it clipped? Her mother's voice, soft and amused, floated up from memory. Don't lose this one, Alma. These old families, their symbols are everywhere. When you see a crest like this, you know someone has old money and an older story. Amara swallowed. It was a trinket, yes, but it was hers, the one pretty thing her mother had claimed meant something. She stared at the closed curtain. The scarf was in there, pressed against an ice pack now, or folded on a tray. With the pin. She could ask for it back. She would. As soon as they finished tending to the woman. Pride stung and then faded. The important thing was that the old woman was being seen. She became aware that someone was standing near her. The Danfo driver, the one whose brakes had screamed, had followed them in. He hovered, guilt drawing his face into a frown. Sister, he said roughly. How is she? She's with the nurse. I know CM, he said, as if his eyes were the only thing that counted. I swear. She just entered road. I know. Amara surprised herself again by feeling a small pity for him. He'd stopped. Many didn't. Drive carefully back. He nodded, a quick repentant dip, and left. The nurse called Amara's name. Back behind the curtain, the old woman's head was bandaged neatly and the knee wrapped, elevated. Her hand reached out without opening her eyes, and Amara took it. Thank you, the old woman said, the words threaded with exhaustion but fierce with intent. God keep you. Amara squeezed her fingers. Rest. You're safe. To the nurse, she said, I have a shift. Can I leave my number? We have it, the nurse said, scribbling. You wrote Amara? Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Yes. She hesitated, then nodded toward the scarf. When you're done, can you please keep that scarf at the desk? There is a small pin on it. It belongs to me. We'll keep it, the nurse said, already turning to check the blood pressure again. Thank you for bringing her. The old woman's eyelids fluttered. Let me. She patted the air, searching for Amara's hand again. I would. Her fingers bumped Amara's wrist. Take small. For transport. She was trying to press a few notes into Amara's palm. Amara closed the woman's fingers gently around the money and folded them back to the blanket. No. Please. Keep it. The old woman's mouth quirked. Not a smile, something older than that. She stopped insisting. Her hand rested on Amara's for one heartbeat. Two, the way a mother might touch a child's head without words. Amara stepped back. The nurse gave her a look that lived somewhere between respect and hurry. Outside, the light had shifted toward evening. The city had already swallowed the drama of the junction the way it swallows rain, briefly loud, then absorbed. The Kiki driver was waiting by the door. Sister, I no go collect full money, he said, scratching his head. You carried her, Amara said. Collect it. She pressed the notes into his hand before he could argue, then smiled, so he wouldn't. He sighed in surrender and drove off. She stood on the clinic steps and counted again the cost. The hour she owed the tailor. The homeward trek that would now be on foot. The small coil of worry about rice and kerosene, and the cracks of the month. Under it, something steady, the old woman breathing evenly behind the curtain. That was worth it. She started walking. Halfway down the street, she stopped. The scarf. The pin. She'd asked the nurse to keep it. She could go back now and collect it. But if the woman was still in assessment, they wouldn't bring out her things. She pictured the scarf folded on a tray, the pin winking small and proud. Tomorrow, she told herself. She could come early before the stall opened. She would get it then. At the junction, she waited for the green man that flashed and flashed without meaning much to the drivers. She threaded through a gap with the rest of the crowd and felt the day put itself back on her shoulders. Work, late apologies, questions. Her phone buzzed. Chica from the stall. Where are you? Madam is looking. Amara texted back. Coming. 10 minutes. She lengthened her stride. Behind her, at the clinic, a black SUV purred at the curb, mirroring the peeling paint in its dark panels. The man inside didn't get out. He watched the doorway and then the receptionist through the glass. After a minute, a tall figure in a plain shirt stepped down from the passenger seat and went in. He didn't say bodyguard with his mouth. He said it with the way he moved, quiet, trained, unbothered by the waiting room stare. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. He leaned on the desk just enough that his voice wouldn't carry. The woman from the junction, he said to the receptionist. Name? The receptionist looked at the clipboard, then at him. She had already decided, when she heard the engine, that she would not be bullied tonight. But the man's face wasn't bullying. It was focused. Protecting. She tapped the line with her pen. Adeyemi Funk, she said. He nodded, unsurprised, and then his fingers slid to the note in a different hand just below. Good Samaritan contact, he read, his eyes moving. Amara. He thanked her with a small nod that made no noise. Back in the SUV, he spoke into the quiet, and the quiet answered. Amara didn't notice. She turned onto the market street and let the smell of frying oil and hot fabric dye pull her forward, her neck bare, her pocket light, her feet sore, her heart calmer than it had any right to be. She adjusted the strap of her bag and broke into a trot. The assistant found her mid-stitch, bent over a sleeve that refused to obey. He stood at the edge of the stall like a full stop in a sentence. Dark suit that didn't sweat, tie that knew its knot, shoes that did not belong on this dusty lane. He asked, in a careful voice that didn't carry, Miss Amara? She looked up, needle paused between cloth and breath. Yes. Good afternoon. I'm Ife. He offered a card she didn't take. Madam Funk Adeyemi would like to see you for a brief thank you visit. The room rearranged itself around the name. The apprentices pretended to iron nothing. Chica mouthed, the clinic? Amara wiped her fingers on her wrapper and felt the absence at her throat again, an ache for her scarf she'd told herself was foolish. She had planned to go early that morning to ask about it, but the stall had been short-staffed. There were hems and zippers and a customer who swore her event was, tonight, I beg. The day got in the way. Madame Ugny, the owner, slid from behind the counter with a smile that reached for a new rung. Good afternoon, she said, extending her hand to Ife as if she had greeted aides all her life. We are honored. Amara is one of our best girls. I just want to make sure Madam is well, Amara said, because the word Adeyemi made people inhale. How is she? Improving, Ife said. She was insistent. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Amara felt herself lean toward yes, and then pull back. Visits meant good intentions that sometimes turned into obligations. A thank you that sometimes tasted like debt. She had rent. She had her shift. She had 100 small reasons to say she couldn't. But the crest in her memory tugged, a little shield on enamel, the kind old families wore on cufflinks and gateposts. She felt her mother's hand again, pinning it the first time. Hold pretty things loosely, Alma, but hold them. Madame Ugny touched her elbow, gentle and firm. Go, she said. It's not wise to offend people who have drivers. Amara laughed under her breath at the nakedness of it. I'll be back, she told Chica. Tell Madam, I finished the senator's shirt before I left. The car smelled like new money and lemon oil. The world outside turned from ramshackle to measured, then to broad quiet. Gates drew open without argument. In the back seat, Amara texted the nurse, "Is Madam awake?" The reply came, "She's home already." "You're going to her house?" The estate was the kind where flowers had gardeners and cyclists wore helmets for fun. Insistent birds stitched the silence shut. Aoife led her through a foyer that could have eaten her whole room, across floors you didn't hear your own foot on, past a painting that was just black until you looked long enough. "Please," he said, opening a door. The woman on the sofa didn't look like someone who had met asphalt recently. Bandage clean above the eyebrow, headscarf tied with style, a shawl the color of cream thrown across her knees like a joke at the idea of weakness. Her eyes were the same as in the road, awake and assessing. But now they were amused, too. "Ah," she said. "My traffic marshal." Amara didn't know whether to laugh or curtsy, so she did neither. "How are you, Ma?" "Stubborn about painkillers," the older woman said, in the comfortable rhythm of someone used to being honest and obeyed. "Come and sit. Let me see your face when I'm not upside down or bleeding." They took each other in. Up close, the lines on the woman's face weren't age. They were an accumulation of expressions. She patted the cushion beside her, and when Amara sat, reached for her hand like they were continuing a conversation. Her palm was warm and small in Amara's. "Thank you," the woman said. "You did not look away. Plenty did. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button." "It was nothing," Amara said, and recognized the lie as soon as it left her mouth. "It was not nothing," the woman said, and let it end there. "I am Funk Adeyemi. People call me Mama Funk when they want something. You will call me Mama Funk when you like me." Amara smiled despite herself. Amara. Mama Funk tasted it. "Beautiful name. Who named you?" "My mother." The answer arrived soft and sat between them. A side door opened. A woman in a clean navy dress came in with a small tray. On it, wrapped in tissue, lay Amara's scarf, laundered until the old dye returned like a remembered song. Pinned near the corner was the crest. The sight of it dragged the breath from her, ridiculous relief at fabric and a little enamel shape. "We retrieved this from the clinic," the navy dress woman said. It was kept aside with a note. Amara reached, then glanced at Mama Funk, unsure if the proper thing was to wait. The older woman nodded. "Take it." Amara lifted the scarf, and the pin flashed, neat and unchanged. Her mother's mornings seemed to unfurl with it, steam from a pot, soft humming, the cool touch under her chin as fingers fastened the pin. "That crest," Mama Funk said, eyeing it with interest that wasn't possessive, just alert, "is a very old design." Amara felt heat in her face. "Is it yours?" Shame prickled. Had she been wearing another family's badge like ignorance? "Our family used something like it decades ago," Mama Funk said. "This one is not exact. It's from a time when our lawyers had not yet chased uniformity," she added dryly. "Where did you get it?" "It was my mother's," Amara said. She said it belonged to people who had old money and older stories. Her laugh came out uneven. "We did not have the money, but we had the story." "Smart woman," Mama Funk said, and her eyes warmed. She gestured, and the navy dress woman, Dara, the PR head, though Amara didn't know that title yet, placed a white envelope on the tray. It didn't bend the paper much, but it bent the air in the room. "We would like you to accept a small thank you," Dara said smoothly, "for your transport and trouble. And for not letting people trample me like careless goats," Mama Funk added. Amara looked at the envelope, then at the scarf in her lap. Her fingers slid along the hem, the little phrase she knew by touch. "I can't accept money," she said, and the refusal was not dramatic. It was just true in her mouth. "I didn't help you for that." Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Mama Funk's head tilted. "People say that, and then reach," she said, not cruelly. Amara smiled. "I reached for this," she said, lifting the scarf. "Please, if this pin caused any confusion because of the crest, it belonged to someone I loved. I would like to keep it." A beat. Then something like mischief crossed Mama Funk's face. "You bargain like a woman who does not realize where she's sitting," she said. "Keep your pin. Keep your scarf. Keep your spine. The money will go to the clinic in your name." She tapped the envelope. "They need more fans that don't tick like they're dying." Amara exhaled, unexpected gratitude loosening muscles she hadn't known were tight. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet." Mama Funk snapped her fingers toward the door, not imperiously but affectionately, like to a child who liked to make an entrance. "Where is that my grandson?" "He said he's coming to greet the girl with steady hands." Two men passed the open door. One kept walking, one stepped back, pulled by the sound of his name. He was tall without being a tower, dressed simply in a white shirt and dark trousers, like he'd left a meeting but not a boardroom. His face was handsome in a way that didn't apologize, and his eyes did that quick scan city people did. Room, people, exits, before they softened. "I'm here," he said, and stopped when he saw Amara as if he'd not expected the person in the story to have a face. "Hello." "Amara," Mama Funk said, "this is my grandson, Toby. He thinks he is a magician because he makes money appear on screens." "Grandma," he said and kissed her cheek. "Are you all right? I'm alive to insult you. Greet this girl." He turned to Amara. "Thank you," he said, and it wasn't a rich man's politeness. It was clean. "I'm sorry you had to deal with the junction. And with us." His mouth flicked toward the envelope, then away. He'd seen. "It was just a road," Amara said. "And a human." He watched her for a second longer than was socially safe. "We need more people who think that way. We need fewer roads that make blood part of the asphalt," she returned, and then worried she'd sounded sharp. "Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button." He didn't flinch. "We do," he said. "We should fix that." Dara, who had hovered like an idea at the door, stepped forward, smoothing the moment. "Mr. Adeyemi has a meeting, but he wanted to say thank you in person." "Of course he did," Mama Funk said. "He likes good stories with strong women. I like accurate stories." Toby's smile found Amara briefly, like a hand offered across a stream, then withdrew. "If you ever need anything." "I don't," Amara said, and then softer. "Thank you." He nodded and was gone as quickly as he had arrived, the door clicking in a way that left the room feeling like a different size. Mama Funk patted Amara's knee. "He is good," she said, as if answering a question Amara had not asked. "But people think in the shape of his surname and money." "You," she considered her, a slow appraisal that felt more like blessing than judgment. "You looked at me and saw a person and a problem, not a headline." "I just didn't want you to be alone on the ground," Amara said. "Yes," Mama Funk said. "That is what I mean." They talked a while about nothing that would fit in a newspaper, about the market and how squash always costs more when you wanted it most, about her mother just a little, about what makes people stop and what makes them walk past. At some point he appeared, an Acra that had no right to be that light. When Amara rose to leave, scarf folded, pin cool under her thumb, Mama Funk stood too, a little slower than pride would allow. She reached to hug Amara, and did, brief and sure. "Go," she said. "Work remains for both of us." In the hall, the house gathered itself around her again, quiet carpets, framed photographs that stared back with old wealth. Two figures stepped aside to let her pass. One of them, a man with a familiar mouth and a colder gaze, leaned toward Dara and kept his voice low. "This will look like a stunt," he murmured. Dara didn't glance at him, eyes tracking Amara's retreating back with a PR mind that was already calculating angles and risks. "Only if you make it one, Bayo," she said. "Only if you make it one." The invitation came as a voice message from Mama Funk herself, breathy with mischief, like someone planning a surprise party. "Come and help me at the health day on Saturday. Not to sit and smile. To work. I like the way you move when things are loud." Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Amara stared at the audio for a long second and then called back. "I'll come if you let me actually work," she said. "Not as decoration." "Decoration?" Mama Funk snorted. Look at my face. Do I look like someone who decorates people? Wear comfortable shoes. The community center had been scrubbed past what soap alone could achieve. Volunteers lugged boxes, posted A4 signs, registration, blood pressure, dental, taped lines onto the floor for cues. The air was warm, the kind of warm that made plastic chairs shine. Amara reported to the woman with the clipboards, took a stack of numbered cards, and began arranging bodies into an order that felt like justice. Imab Inu, she told an older man whose patience had frayed to threads, switching to Yoruba when he frowned at the English on the form. We will see you. Sit here. Yes, you'll be next after her. Her hands were gentle, but the line learned quickly not to argue. Her eyes kept moving, catching a toddler about to make a run for the exit, catching a nurse searching for a pen, catching the way a blind woman's cane kept snagging on the tape edges. She knelt and pressed the tape flatter. Sorry, ma. Done. She read instructions out loud and in pieces when the font was hostile. Don't eat for 30 minutes after the fluoride. 30. Ha. That meat pie can wait. Yes, I know it smells like heaven. People laughed and then listened. She paired lonely people on a bench, so the wait would not feel like punishment. When a small auntie burst into tears because she'd lost her card, Amara reached into the bin for a new one and wrote the same number with calm authority, then murmured to the nurse, I saw her card drop under that man's chair. I'll fix it. At some point, she realized she was thirsty, and a bottle of water materialized beside her hand. She turned and found Toby, sleeves rolled, a volunteer tag hanging on a lanyard that didn't quite fit the rest of him. He wasn't posing. He held a carton open while two teenagers took out boxes of test strips. His smile when he saw her notice was unshowy, the sort of smile you give someone you met in a different light and now recognize under fluorescent bulbs. You run this place now? He asked. No, she said. I'm just keeping it from falling sideways. Same thing. His gaze slid to the pin on her scarf and back to her face. Is that the pin? It is, she said, thumb brushing it unconsciously. She didn't offer more because work was moving and explanations hungry for too many words could wait. He kept his pace beside her for a few tasks, taping down a poster that wouldn't behave, helping a man with a walker through the congestion at the corner without making him feel slow. His phone buzzed, and he ignored it for a full minute before glancing. I'm not avoiding work, he said, almost apologetic. I just like seeing how other people do it. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. How other people do everything without an app, she teased, and he took the teasing easily. On the far side of the hall, Dara stood like a very good shadow. Her dress had pockets, which meant she was dangerous. She watched Amara with a gaze that would have been called curiosity if it had been softer. Tell me about the tailor stall on Aweka, she texted someone. The girl. Any debts? Any stories? Then another. Find out her landlord's name. It wasn't malice. It was a reflex honed over years of reputations. Beautiful stories had a habit of fermenting into scandals if left unguarded. She would rather break the myth herself than be stabbed with it later. Mid-morning, a donor arrived with the air of someone bringing rain to a dry place. He handed an envelope to Dara with the flourish of a man who wanted to be seen giving. For the dental supplies, he said. In cash. Don't argue. I know you prefer transfers, but this way I feel it. Dara nodded, expression neutral, and placed the envelope under a stack of forms on the display table while she greeted the next guest. 10 minutes later, when she reached for it, her fingers met paper that wasn't the envelope. The table was suddenly a trick door. She moved forms, lifted a stack of flyers. Nothing. Where's the envelope? The donor asked lightly, and then again. Not light at all. People's eyes, trained by years of social media to find the center of drama, swung toward the quiet woman in a headscarf near the registration table. The outsider, someone said under breath, careless with a word. It rolled through the room with more speed than effect. Amara felt the shift before she heard the phrase. The temperature of glances changed. The way space opened around her was the way people make a small circle around a spill. She kept her mouth closed for 2 beats and then went to Dara. It was on the display table? She asked. Dara's jaw had set. Bayo hovered, smelling opportunity. The donor's impatience spread like ink. Under the flyers, Dara said. Okay, Amara said, as if she were asking a child where they had last seen a shoe. Who touched the table in the last 10 minutes? Who leaned on it? She lifted the stack of flyers again, used the straight edge to push under the stand, not just the top. This table wobbles. Did anyone try to balance it? The young man at the t-shirt stand raised a hand. I put a paper there to stop the shaking. Amara knelt, palm flat to the dusty floor, and peered under the metal foot. There, grimy and intact, was a corner of white. Please lift, she asked, and 2 volunteers raised the table just enough. She slid the envelope free. The donor, who had been gathering breath for speech, exhaled noisily instead. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Amara didn't rip it open to prove anything. She handed it to Dara. You should be the one to check. Dara opened it and counted notes with a speed that came from years of fundraisers.
Full, she said.
She turned to the donor with practiced poise. I apologize. We balanced the table without noticing. Thank you for your patience. The donor's eyes flicked from Dara to Amara, embarrassment cooling bluster. He cleared his throat. I'm sorry, he said, and to his credit he didn't swallow the words. He turned so his voice carried. Miss Amara, please forgive me. I spoke too fast. Amara nodded. She didn't give him the gift of making it easy. She just nodded, and people returned to letting their bodies occupy chairs and their mouths be patient again. The room's pulse steadied. Bayo clicked his tongue, small and displeased, and sent a message to someone who would almost certainly leak a different story if given the chance. Later, during a lull, Toby found Amara near the storeroom, leaning against a wall that had been painted badly a dozen times. He didn't congratulate her on solving anything. He just offered a half-eaten packet of chin-chin like peace between battles. They ate in companionable silence for a minute. People like simple stories, he said finally. Hero, villain. Outsider, insider. The lines are clean. Life is not. Lines drawn with money become fences, she said, then felt the weight of the pin under her chin. She touched it, and he noticed because he was watching without staring. Your mother gave you that? She did. She studied the tiny crest as if it might answer for her. She had a way of making small things feel like anchors. We moved a lot when I was younger. She'd say, pin this, the world is windy. What happened to her? His voice was careful, not prying, offering an exit if she wanted it. She died. The word still startled her when it sat next to another person. Last year. It makes no sense that the world kept going without her, but it did. I keep the pin because it's the only thing that feels like the opposite of leaving. I'm sorry, he said, and it didn't sound like a sentence taught to men by older women. It sounded earned. She nodded, because saying thank you to sympathy sometimes felt like accepting a bowl you didn't ask for. Then she pushed off the wall and handed him the empty packet. Back to it. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Yes, he said, pocketing the trash like a boy scolded by a neat grandmother. By late afternoon, the hall smelled like Dettel and tired people. A choir from a nearby church sang off-key and beautifully while the last blood pressures were taken. Mama Funk sat like a queen without a throne, greeting people with the exact same warmth whether they were bank managers or market aunties. When Amara came near, she caught her hand and squeezed, the pride in her eyes fierce enough to embarrass and heal at once. You see why I asked you to come? She said. You make chaos sit down. It was already sitting, Amara said. I just told it to tuck in its shirt. They laughed, and Toby, somewhere behind them, heard the sound and let it sit in his chest like a good ache. Across the hall, Dara's phone vibrated. A photo came through, a thin paper pasted crookedly on a green metal door. Red final notice screamed in block letters above smaller lines about arrears and dates. Under it, another photo, a scrawl she recognized as the address of the lane beside the tailor stall. The message read, served this morning. 3 days to vacate. Neighbors say she's decent. Owes 2 months. Doris stared at the screen.
No scandal.
No convenient ruin to warn them away. Just the ordinary cruelty of money's timing. She felt a frustration that wasn't clean, half at the world, half at the stubbornness of this story to be anything but human. She pressed her lips together, looked up at Amara laughing with the old woman, and made a decision without smiling. A harsher test had presented itself. It would not be of her making, but it would test them all the same. The headline arrived before breakfast, like a stone through a window. Mystery girl targets billionaire through grandma. A friend from the stall sent the link with 10 exclamation marks and then, immediately, I'm so sorry. The article had grainy photos from the clinic, Amara's hand on Mama Funk's shoulder, and a sharper one from the estate foyer, where the scarf looked like a flag. The writer threaded insinuations like beads, calculated timing, visible crest, strategic volunteerism. By lunchtime, the comments had turned a woman kneeling on hot asphalt into a schemer with a plan. At the stall, Madame Uni stood with a copy of the paper folded tight in her fist. She didn't meet Amara's eyes. Take the afternoon, she said flatly.
No, take the week.
Customers will talk. I can't have charade here. It's not a charade, Amara said, but the words were empty in the air between them. A woman in a half-pinned blouse waited in a corner where she could pretend not to hear. The apprentices watched their needles. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. It doesn't matter, Madam said, tired and defensive. It looks like one. Go home. Home wasn't safe either. The notice on the door had ripened from red to angry brown in the heat. The landlord's cousin, who liked to behave like a landlord, was waiting with a set of keys he jangled as if they were a weapon. Your grace is finished, he said. 3 days became 2. Today is day 1. I told him I'm paying on Friday, Amara said, and heard how thin the promise sounded with her hours cut. You people always have Friday. He shrugged. Bring a truck. When her phone rang, Toby didn't bother with greetings. I saw it, he said, breathless like he'd run. I'm coming. Don't, she said. Not here. I don't want neighbors filming. I don't care.
Ido.
He was quiet for a beat. Then meet me around the corner. 10 minutes. They found each other on the street that sold spare parts and small eyes, the kind of lane where nobody looked up as long as money kept walking. He held out his hand, palm up, the way you approach an injured animal. She didn't take it, but she didn't step back either. I can fix this, he said. You can't fix people's hunger for stories that make them feel smart. I can challenge the story they're being fed. He took a breath. Let me help with rent. With your boss. Just for now. So, I will be your secret, she asked softly. Your good deed in the dark? His mouth opened and closed. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. She tugged the scarf's corner. The pin caught the light and made a small ridiculous star on the wall. I won't take hush money, Toby. Not even from you. This isn't hush. Then do it in the light, she said. Or not at all. Back at the estate, Bayo had already found him twice in corridors to speak in the voice of family duty. Protect the name, he said. Distance yourself. These girls are media savvy. They cry the right tears. Toby listened, jaw tight. You leaked it, he said finally, without question. Bayo smiled with his teeth. I guard us. If she can't stand small heat, she cannot live in this kitchen you love. Better to know now. What you did was cruel and stupid, Toby said. And small. There is no small when it comes to our name, Bayo said, pleased to have maneuvered him into speaking of names and not people. Mama Funk sent for Toby as dusk tucked itself into the corners. She sat by the window where the jacaranda made a purple mess of the lawn. You look like a man who owes many people and has paid none, she said. They're telling me to let it die down, he said. Stall. Pay what needs paying. Wait it out. They are telling you to lie without lying, she said. Cowardice, with better grammar. Do you believe her? Yes, he said, without air between the letters. Then act like it, she said. People learn what we mean by the way we move, not the words we say. He nodded, throat tight. Also, she said, voice softening. She is not a girl. She is a woman. Use words properly. He laughed, despite the acid in his stomach, and bent to kiss her bandaged head. She pressed something small and warm into his hand as he straightened. He opened his fingers and stared. A ring, the old yellow kind that has outlived fashions, simple, round, worn smooth by another woman's life. Grandpa bought it when we had just enough money to buy beans twice, she said. If you ever decide to offer a promise, give this before you give money. If you are afraid, return it to me. He closed his hand over it and felt his pulse climb into the circle as if it were a house. He called Dara. We're going public. Tonight. We can draft, she said carefully. We can also wait for the second wave and... No waiting, he said. Write the truth. I'll say it to camera. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. She didn't argue again. She pulled a small team into a room and shut the door. The video was simple. A white wall, a chair, a man who looked like he hadn't slept and hadn't tried to hide it. On Tuesday afternoon, he said, a stranger named Amara stopped traffic and helped my grandmother off a road. She refused money. She left her scarf behind. She is not a mystery girl. She is a person who did a decent thing. The insinuations about her motives are false. If you must aim at someone, aim at me. I can take it. He paused there and then, as if remembering, added, we are donating to the clinic in her name. And to all the clinics where people bring strangers and are told card first. We need better crossings. We are paying for the one at that junction. That's the story. Leave her alone. Dara posted the clip and then sat with her tongue pressed against the back of her teeth while she watched the first comments arrive. She had not been hired to be tender, but tenderness found her when threads filled with people telling the small stories that make other stories plausible. A bus stop where someone lifted a baby's head so it wouldn't hit concrete. A man who loaned a tire iron and never asked for it back. The algorithm didn't know what to do with decency, but for once it tried. Bayo burst in with a screenshot of a blogger already writing, Pierre Spin. They're making her a saint. Dara did not flinch. Then we stop arguing about her, she said. We talk about crossings and clinics. Let them accuse us of that. Later that night, Dara knocked on Toby's door with a phone held out like a confession. It was Bayo, she said, before he could ask. He fed them the clinic photo. I traced the metadata. The file left our media server, from his login. Timestamps line up with the first post. Toby's mouth didn't move. Anything on Amara? He asked.
She warned no one, Dara said.
Her landlord's cousin sent me a picture of the notice because I asked for it. She didn't. Her phone records show nothing to the press. The only person she called was you. His shoulders dropped the way roofs do when rain ends. Thank you. She hesitated. I pushed too hard, she said quietly. I was looking for a scandal to preempt one. I'm sorry. You did your job, he said. Now do this one. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. By morning, the stall had customers again. The internet, bored by lack of fresh dirt, chewed on other bones. It didn't fix the eviction. The cousin came with a padlock at noon. Amara had already packed everything into 3 boxes and a duffel that pretended to be stronger than it was. She kept 1 cup out to drink water. She stood in a room that had been hers for 3 years, the nail in the wall that never held anything heavy, the window that stuck in the rains, and let herself feel the heaviness of being pushed without being the kind of person who pushed back with destruction. She lifted the last box. The knock at the door was soft. She opened it and found Toby, hair damp from heat or haste, shirt untucked, ring in his pocket feeling like a small son. Behind him, the corridor was full of eyes. He didn't step in. He spoke there so the corridor would hear. I didn't bring a check, he said. I brought a promise. He swallowed and did not look away. I want you in my life. In the light. Not as a secret I protect when it's convenient. If you'll have me, we'll find another room together and put our names on the same door. We'll be poor in privacy and rich in noise, and I'll be clumsy and you'll correct me. We'll argue about silly things like what cup is for toothbrushes. We'll do it without hiding. And if you want a ring for that promise, he opened his hand. The old yellow circle glowed, like something rescued from a river. My grandmother wore this when all she had was a loud laugh and a stubborn husband. She asked me to offer it to you. Her throat closed around surprise that felt like grief, and joy got married. She looked at the ring, then at him, then back at the room that had held her loneliness with kindness and mold. Tears came fast and without drama. You don't have to do this because people are watching, she said, and meant it with her whole body. I'm doing it because I'm watching, he said. And because I choose you. In front of them. He glanced at the cousin with the keys. And him. A laugh broke out from somewhere down the hall. Somebody said, "Aw," like they were at a cinema. Amara wiped her face with the heel of her hand and realized she was nodding. Yes, she said, and the word made the corridor feel like an altar. Yes. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit well enough to feel like a story they'd been walking toward in different shoes. He took the box from her hands, and together they stepped into the hall. The cousin found somewhere else to look. Let's go, Toby said. We have a blessing to collect. They didn't call a car. They walked 2 streets before finding one, talking about nothing. How the heat makes bread go stale faster, how landlords always have a cousin, how rings are surprisingly heavy for their size. He held her box like a man who had carried lighter things and finally found something that matched him. When they reached the estate, the guard's eyebrows almost shook hands with his hairline. He pressed the buzzer hard enough to wake the house. Mama Funk waited in the foyer with her shawl and a smile that looked like a victory earned the right way. Toby didn't make a speech. He simply stepped beside Amara, fingers brushing hers with a new permission, and said, "We came to ask." "Ask what?" she said, already knowing, eyes bright with it. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. For your blessing, Amara said, voice steady now. We're not hiding. Good, Mama Funk said. Then I can bless you in a voice that carries. She did. Words old women have been saying to young couples since the first time 2 people decided to share a roof and a future. When she finished, she kissed Amara's forehead like a mother might. The house, for a moment, felt like it had room for every version of the story they hadn't lived yet. They married on a morning that had the good manners to be clear without being showy. The hall was the kind you book when you want light more than chandeliers, a rented space with white walls, big windows, and a courtyard where bougainvillea bullied the fence in purple. Plastic chairs in neat rows, a strip of calico running like a path down the middle. No stage, no fog machine. Just people who had watched the worst part of the story and wanted to stand close for the good part. Nurses with biro-stained fingers. The kiki driver who had insisted he didn't need thanks. The woman whose blood pressure Amara had coaxed down with humor and water. The choir from the church that sang off-key and beautifully. Madame Annie came in a dress her own needle had once refused to behave for. Eyes damp, but proud. Even the landlord's cousin hovered by the gate, uncomfortable and curious. Toby stood at the front in a plain suit that wasn't trying to say anything more than I showed up. When Amara walked in, nothing dramatic happened with the weather. The sun didn't break through in a miracle. It was already there, steady on the window glass. She wore a simple blue dress, and her mother's pin was back at her throat, small as ever, quiet as ever. She fought the impulse to touch it. She wanted her hands free. The person officiating was a friend of Mama Funk's who knew how to bless without performing, who had buried and married in equal measure and believed in both things. He spoke briefly, as if he understood that words are spices, not food. You have already seen disappointment try to rent a room here, he said. You know the work that love is. Today you promise to do it in public. That's all. It is enough. Mama Funk didn't wait to be called. She walked forward with her shawl flung back, face made of pride, and lifted her hands over them the way women lift covers off hot pots. May your home have more laughter than furniture, she said. May your mercy arrive before your judgment. May you never become the kind of people who cross the road when they see trouble. Her voice softened. When someone falls, you kneel first. Toby reached for Mara's hands like a man reaching for a rope. I'm going to say it the way Grandma says it, he whispered, and louder for everyone. When someone falls, we kneel first. I promise that instinct in the road, in our house, in every room with our names on the door. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Amara felt the words move through her like water through cloth. She didn't need poetry. She needed a sentence she could lift. When someone falls, we kneel first, she said back. I promise to keep my hands steady when the world shakes. I promise to tell the truth even when it makes less noise. They didn't kiss with a crowd's hunger. They kissed like people who had learned that tenderness is louder in private. The choir started something exuberant anyway, and the aunties stood to dance because bodies remember joy even while your head is still taking notes. In the courtyard, under a half-shy sun, people ate small chops and gulped soft drinks with the guilt-free greed that weddings allow. It smelled of puff-puff and hair oil and the end of fear. Children found the only patch of dust and made it their stage. The Kiki driver carried a tray like it was a steering wheel and asked everyone if they were fine. Beo hovered on the edges like a man trying not to block the light. He dressed well and chosen humility badly. It sat on him like a new shirt, still stiff. He waited until there was a clear gap, then approached Toby and Amara together so that no one would say he was whispering to one against the other. I was wrong, he said, voice clipped, eyes steady. I did a thing I thought would protect us, and it harmed. I apologize. He did not add any ornaments. No, if you were offended. No, but you must understand. He let the words stand in their smallness and their weight. I'm stepping back from PR. It needs someone who doesn't see ghosts where there are none. Toby didn't make him crawl. Thank you, he said, for saying it plain. Amara nodded. I accept the apology, she said, and there was no triumph in it, just the relief of clean ground. Beo looked like a man who had been given back a name you can say without spitting. He moved away lighter. Dara arrived with a clipboard she tried and failed to hide. She hugged Amara with actual arms, not the idea of arms, and murmured, I have a budget line with your name on it and a headache with it. Then, to both of them, more formal, I want to rebuild trust. You'll see everything, not just the parts one want you to see. If I start to become a machine again, slap me with a form. You did good. Mama Funk called from a chair, without looking, the way grandmothers hear confessions through walls. Dara rolled her eyes and laughed and retreated into a conversation with a nurse about where to buy the best tape that doesn't lift skin. When speeches try to start, Amara cut them short. No more, she pleaded into the microphone, smiling. We all have homes to go back to and babies to bathe and powders to scrub off our cheeks. Thank you for coming. Please make takeaway plates. If you don't, I'll send you home with bags whether you want them or not. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. Before people began to drift, Mama Funk stood again, this time holding something wrapped in tissue as if it were bread. I borrowed this yesterday, she said to Amara, to make it shine the way it should when you stand in rooms where people want to take small things from you. She opened the paper. There was Amara's scarf, freshly laundered, the blue deeper for the care, the edges mended where had made them thin. Beside the polished enamel pin was a small new badge, the foundation's emblem stamped onto metal with the words Street Responder Initiative around it. It's yours, Mama Funk said. Your idea. You said the world needs people who don't look away. We will fund the training. You will run it in your name, not as anybody's pet project. You'll train market women and drivers and boys who think they are indestructible. First aid that fits pockets. Calls that don't die on hold. Amara's throat warmed. Gratitude and terror rose together and shook hands. I'm still working at the stall, she said, looking for permission to be many things. Good, Mama Funk said. Let your life not become one thing people can point at. So in the morning, teach at night. Rest. Love. She pinned the new badge beside the old crest with the brisk tenderness of someone fastening a child's school uniform. Now, when people see your neck, they will know 2 stories. That is plenty. They did not drive away into a sunset. They folded chairs. They sent the leftover puff-puff to neighbors. Amara changed into her old sandals and stuffed her wedding shoes into a nylon bag because blisters can love you and still hurt. Toby helped a nurse lift a crate into the back of a small car and then nudged Amara's shoulder.
"Let's go," he said.
Before the day disappears. They went first to the estate to drop a few gifts and hug an old woman for longer than a camera would tolerate. Then they asked the driver to take them to the corner that had taken up residence in both their chests. The road was the same rude test it always was. Traders shouting prices, buses carving lines through crowds, pedestrians negotiating with steel. The air tasted like dust and hot rubber. An elderly vendor sat on the same stool, selling sachet water and bitter cola, her skirt hem tucked up for speed. They stood a minute without speaking. Then they moved. Toby walked to the traffic warden and asked for 5 minutes of real stop. Amara approached the vendor. "Mama, ESEO, she said softly. "You saw that day." "I see many days," the woman replied, eyes bright with the pleasure of being asked. "This one is about to be better?" "Yes," Amara said. "This one is about to be better." They had already done the quiet work, the meeting with the local works department, the engineer with a pen behind his ear, the man who knew which form to submit and which to hand to a person with a last name older than asphalt. Money had moved in a way that didn't make noise. Not a billboard, not a ribbon cutting, just invoices paid and a schedule posted. Today they had come to see the first test, the crossing light newly mounted, the zebra stripes drying their white into the tar like bones after rain. Don't forget to like and drop a comment. If this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. A small crowd gathered the way small crowds always do when something unusual happens that isn't an accident. The traffic warden blew his whistle with ceremony. Fingers pointed. 2 boys on a bicycle slowed, offended and delighted by the change. The electrician in a yellow vest gestured to Amara. "Madam, press it." She pressed the button. For a second, nothing happened, as if the road were deciding whether to obey. Then the light clicked over to red with a sound that wasn't loud, but felt enormous. The green man flared on the box. Amara and Toby stepped to the curb and, without performing, did what they always do. They made a path. "Wait," Amara told a woman ready to run too soon.
"Now."
They walked across with a small procession. The vendor, a child holding his mother's skirt, a man with a bag of spare parts that clinked like coins. In the middle, Amara glanced at the place where she had once knelt and found it ordinary. Painted tar, gum, a flattened bottle cap. The world didn't turn gold. It did not need to. It turned safe for breath. On the far side, the vendor looked back and laughed, a laugh with teeth. "See them stop," she said, delighted.
"And
see them stop." Amara and Toby laughed too, the kind that empties your lungs of the past. The light turned green. Cars rolled forward in a new order that would have to be learned again tomorrow, and again the day after that. It would never be perfect, but it would be better. They stayed a while, guiding a few more crossings, answering a man who asked whether the button was only for the rich. "For everybody," Toby said and meant it. When they finally stepped back, the city took the improvement and wrapped it into its day like salt into soup. Amara touched the 2 badges at her throat, the old crest polished to its quiet dignity, the new emblem still catching too much light. She slid her fingers down to Toby's hand, found it, and held. They didn't say anything worth writing down. They didn't need to. The road spoke for them. A whistle, a click, a green man flashing. An old woman on a stool smiled at the neatness of it. And the couple moved when they saw people move, ready to steady the next person who needed a hand. Hey besties, thanks so much for sticking around till the end. If you felt something, learned something, or just enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, drop a comment, and hit that subscribe button.
see you next time. Bye.